You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And a question is being asked by a friend. Stephen says, is there a criminal angle to sexual harassment? If there is dismissal enough? And that is also important to say. There are those, you have heard Professor Jampo say, for example, it's a crime. Why was it not reported to the police? It's no crime.
It is. There are
sexual harassment. You can take at the workplace. At the workplace, you can take an action at charge. But sexual harassment as a crime.
Yeah, let's come. There are components. You see?
Okay.
And I like the way you are saying
okay.
it, because what he's saying is actually correct.
Okay.
But the components that you're going to talk about, like sexual harassment,
it's not a crime.
It's not.
It's so depending on the way you are looking at it. So there's the indecent assault.
You must go further
to prove the indecent assault.
Okay.
Okay. It's a crime. Okay. And also, let's come especially to rape. The power imbalance we'll be talking about.
Okay.
In our criminal
we are not discussing. I'm reading messages that will go to the law school.
The person wants education.
Right. Yes.
So the power imbalance, it can void the consent.
Thank you.
Section 14.
Thank you. And you know what? These guys, when we go backstage, they talk about really what they know that goes on, that they have become privy to, that the sex for grades is real. This one says, my brother, are you aware lawyers also get compromised in the conduct of matrimonial cases?
Yes.
Okay, your legal fees will sink if you elect to go into the into the whatever wahala. Most of us will not pass this utopian test. Okay, Nana Say Ojiri says that, first of all, it's very unfortunate that a young professor will be in the center of the brouhaha. Let us ask ourselves, what was the purpose of this video? Indeed, there is nothing in the video pointing to sex for grades, really. But for me, the video is seeking to authenticate the rumor out there. Thank you for your message. Okay. Yawan Su Jabo says that the footage doesn't contain enough incriminating evidence to... Okay, so how are you guys looking at the footage, really? To jeopardize Professor Jampo's reputation and career. Don't forget, some women... Okay, I can't project that for you. And they attract men they wish. So let's pay attention to that also. Okay, so Note says, I'm curious as to how Jampo himself would answer this question. Number 12. Where is the entrapment? Okay. Okay. Then he says she's not a friend. So we should also clarify that she's not a friend, despite how long they have had to mingle. She's not a friend. Thank you. I'll share some of your messages also later. Now, in the course of this week, law students, we are told, from the various law faculties came together, even though we know that the facts include that those who failed and the batches of those who failed over the years were part of the protest. They took a petition and decided to hold a demonstration and make a petition to the Attorney General, to the President, and to a number of other people to seek to influence reform. And what they mean by reform is practically an expansion of the law school so that more people can gain entry, more qualified people can gain entry. And they are seeking some sort of transparency also in the process. But it didn't seem to have turned out the way they thought. Let's look at this briefly.
The seriousness of the issue, we are fully appreciative of the immensity of the matter and the steps will be taken to address it. And of course, the issue of law reform, law education, it calls for a holistic view. I think that the access to the LLB program, of course, must even be measured against access to the professional law course itself. So it requires a comprehensive approach. I'm very happy that today we brought the petition to the Attorney General. The Attorney General will take account of all the issues that we have raised, will duly present to the General Legal Council, and then appropriate measures will be fashioned out to address the issue of access to LLB as well as access to the professional law course, and then, of course, the practice of law in Ghana as a whole.
Aren't you worried about the low numbers? I mean, if you look at the current figure, only less than 10% of these people were passed. This is worrying, isn't it?
Well, I think in the first place, I mean, clearly, when examination is set, there will also be what they call marking scheme and that kind of thing. I am not in the position, I'm not a member of the General Legal Council, my colleague is a member of the General Legal Council. I do not think that even my colleague is a member of the General Legal Council is even aware of the marking scheme that was used. So we cannot be easily judgmental and say that merely because it's 10% of students who pass, then clearly it shows a deliberate attempt on the part of the regulators of the law program to reduce or restrict access to the law course. So first and foremost, we must establish whether indeed all those who failed actually failed in truth, or all those who passed also passed in truth. I think it calls for, as I said, a proper examination of the issue. And that proper examination will, in my view, be done not really by picketing or demonstrating, in all humility. But indeed, clearly this is global. This has never happened. I understand. That's why I'm saying that indeed we ought to take a critical look at it now. Now that law students are resorting to what I may term unusual or extraordinary measures, then it means that the problem is quite immense and must be addressed. Indeed, we will take these steps.
So this is purely a case of students not meeting the standards?
Precisely, simple. And I think that fact ought to be recognized first. So the problem must be examined. So it's not a case where you could say that the law school had only 120 places for law students this year. It's not true at all. It was not a question of the law school placing a cap or placing a limitation of 128.
So this isn't the case of no space?
Definitely not. Please say, definitely not.
You had 1,000 spaces.
Yes.
Students were simply not good enough.
It's a case
to
of
take up the 1,000.
Precisely. It was a case of only 10% pass.
Hold on, let me down. Hold on.
All right, you're welcome back. And let's start from what didn't go on well with the demonstration and what may have gone really bad with the demonstration. I've heard people roundly condemn, the attempts to vandalize the Deputy Attorney General's vehicle when he was moving in there, attempts to, hit the vehicle, and people asking that's unbecoming of people who want to become lawyers, because the requirements you need to enter the law school starts with the same qualification for a judge, and it is high moral character and integrity, and that may not qualify them. But Kuku, the question is now being asked. The police has suggested that the demonstration was illegal. They issued a press statement to say that demonstration was illegal. From what you have seen, the NPP as a party has issued a statement to condemn it, how they were handled. I think the National Youth Authority also issued a statement to condemn the brutalities meted out to some of them. All of that. We have seen people who were hurt in the process, and they arrested some people in one of those, people will say, farcical attempts, and later released them.
See, the demonstrators, the organizers, I'm sure they went through the procedures laid out by the Public Order Act.
Yes.
If you do so, and in the course of the demonstration, you do something contrary to the contents of that law, there are prescriptions to cure the mischief. The police definitely should know that. The law, there's a due process. Even before the demonstration, if the police attempted to persuade them not to hold it, but to defer, and they said no, the police had to go to the courts to get a court order. Yeah, we're talking here due process, rule of law. What the little I saw on TV, the brutality is inexcusable. Because assuming without admitting that they were doing some things that bordered on vandalism.
Exactly.
I'm still not too sure that the police reaction was appropriate. It was an overkill. And you see, an institution like the police, they are expected to be more professional in handling these things. Maybe we must go back to see how we are training our police to control crowd.
The actual report.
Yes, we should go back and check on all those things, whether we are actually doing the right things or not. So to be honest with you, I'm not prepared to rationalize the police behavior. I think they misbehaved.
Okay.
I've been asking myself, what has the IGP done so far relative to that? See, recently, we were all worried about attacks on police, personnel, and all the rest. And because that is also very dangerous. It takes away the authority, the respect, and everything from them. But they have no business visiting violence on citizens who are demonstrating. We need to hear something from the police authorities relative to those who were in charge of that demonstration. I mean, those who were out there to protect the demonstrators who ended up behaving as if they were just foot soldiers.
Okay, Martin, what do you know about what's happened? Because they issued a statement, the Law Students Association issued a statement in which they also commended you, Kofi Bentil, and Nana Oyeleta for coming to their rescue and assisting them in the whole process. We understand that they issued the notice required by law, which is supposed to be giving 5 days notice. They gave like 10 days notice and all of that. When they got to the Jubilee House, what happened that they were being prevented?
Okay, so what it is that it would appear that the police are not happy that when they suggested that the demonstration be postponed, the students didn't agree. You see, so you know how sometimes in recent times, it's not even in recent times, it's always been the attitude of our police that some of these demonstrations, as soon as they think in their estimation that it will cause some perceived public inconvenience, then the first sentence is to say, oh, postpone it, hoping that if they ask you to postpone a number of times, you give up, you say. But these students were resilient. They insisted that no, we would not. So that is the underlying current. You see, so on that day, from the law school through to the new court complex, to the AG side, and then to the Jubilee House. You see that on their way, that was at the Sankara that this whole thing happened. So from...
But quick one, was that part of the approved routes, or that was not part?
That specific, I don't recollect. What I do know is that there is because of that underlying thing that don't do it today at all on Monday 7th.
They had no business. They should have gone to court.
Exactly. You see it. You say it. So having gone through to this extent, then the commander came up. You see it. So he didn't want the whole thing to take place. That's it, basic, flat out. So to the extent that the students came out, he felt slighted. So you see that already there was, if you call it like honorables were tipping point. The fact that you could defy us, we say postpone, you say no under the law, because the students made it clear to them that, look, under the law, we don't need your permission, but rather we are informing you.
Right.
So you see the whole thing.
So when the police said postpone, they didn't agree.
Yes.
And they wrote a letter to the police telling them that we cannot postpone anyway.
Yes.
So the expectation was that the police would go to court and stop them.
Yes.
The police didn't do that.
They didn't do so.
So on the day of the demonstration, they converged at the law school.
Yes.
And then they began their procession.
Yes.
They say that the procession was very peaceful until they got to the Akoaje interchange, where police showed up, armed to the teeth, they suggest.
Yes.
And that's when things began to go wrong.
Yes, and that's so wrong. So wrong, because you see, this is not the first time. I have here, you know, the Accra Sports Stadium Disaster Committee report, okay, where the committee came out with the findings that no, the way we train our police to use these weapons is not appropriate when it comes to crowd control. We do a poor job.
No, but what do you do? They say don't do it. They don't go to court to stop you. And then you start peacefully, you get to one point.
Yeah.
So they meet them at that place, and then they tell them that we'll not allow you to go to the Jubilee House.
Yes.
And that's where the problem began.
Yeah, and then Abu Jinapo even came there and told them that no.
Deputy Chief of Staff.
Yes. He said no, allow them to come to the ceremonial gate of the Jubilee House, and then he would receive it. And the police still said no. You see, they just had an agenda that, look, so that's the, from the way the students are describing, is the whole fact that they came out when the police thought that, no, the thing should be postponed. That's just the basis for it. Because when the Deputy Chief of Staff himself has come upon the situation, he says, allow them to come to the ceremonial gate.
The allegation is that
even the
whilst they were in the process to negotiate that only a few of them be allowed at least to proceed to the Jubilee House, the Greater Accra commander, DCOP Frederick Edu Enim, fired on his orders, fired rubber bullets at the students, sprayed the students with water from their water cannons, and fired tear gas to disperse the students.
That's disproportionate.
Exactly, that's the word. Thank you. Disproportionate use of force. Disproportionate. To be fair to the police, they have also made allegations that the students were throwing stones. But so far, where is the video evidence of it? You think if there was evidence of throwing stones, this wouldn't have been captured quickly? At least the evidence of the brutality is on tape. Where is the evidence of the stones? So far,
so what help did you provide them? 13 of the leaders were arrested. 13 of them. Were arrested. They say the arrest was in a violent manner. We saw some of them being pushed into the armored vehicles. And that reminds me of an experience I had myself where I was being forced to enter an armored car. I said I won't. And then they slapped me.
You remember the Mobra struggle, 98, when we went to the castle.
So what help did you give them?
So basically, whilst they were there and then the situation was getting bad, that was when they called me. They called me that I should be on standby, and that if I didn't hear after a certain point, then I should proceed there. But in the interim, then they also placed calls to Mr. Kofi Bentil and then Nanoye. Yes, so in the process, Mr. Bentil and Nanoye got there earlier and then got the bill eventually sorted. Yes, so I was on standby.
All right.
I was on standby.
So as it is, they were not charged, really?
Yes, but I hear that the police want to so prosecute. I mean, they want to charge them, which we think, no, listen, these things, they've made some mistakes. They should just eat humble pie and let this matter die. Otherwise, from what it is, the students who are discussing, looking at going to Shraj to lodge a complaint, because for them, they have video evidence of brutality.
So what do you say? Kweku was saying the IGP should be doing something about this. What should be done?
Yes, so that's what I was saying. Look, from 1970, from the RAN committee report to Justice Archer report to the stadium disaster, I mean, so many police reports. This thing about training on especially crowd control. It's been, I mean, it's older than you and I.
Yeah.
Older than you and I. And to date, we have this problem.
Including recruitment.
Yes, exactly.
No, what should be done? Should the IGP, and again, we have an IGP who has a short history. He investigates all sorts of issues. When things happen, he calls for investigations into them. Should he be investigating this matter to see what he can do?
Looking at it, you see that because we are not, as an institution, it should be done. But you see that the structure of PIPS itself, because we've asked for, and you've been leading the crusade for an independent police commission, right? Police complaints commissions where we can do these things. To the extent that it's not altogether independent, I'm in two minds. In one, I think, Shrike should do it. In another, I'm thinking that, maybe the police can do it. But if we can get coverage, that will be telecast so that there is some transparency, it can help
very
the process.
Briefly, Kwenka, and I think we should move away from this and look briefly at the issue about what they were really fighting for. You, as Deputy Attorney General, you are clearly aware of the encounter with your boss, with your colleague, Gov't Dame. We have seen some of the videos. In fact, some had actually alleged that you were the one.
Yes.
Samson, thanks so much for this opportunity once again. First, let me state that whatever happened was most unfortunate. and all of us to join hands in condemning the high-handedness with which it was handled at that particular stage. But let me state this, and let me state it quite clearly. I was actually up north, and I had stated, even when I granted an interview to one of the radio stations, that I had gone in preparation for my late father's funeral, and I was not in Accra. Then I got a call that there was a program on one of your radio stations here in Accra, in which it was alleged that I had called police to brutalize students who were demonstrating. I was not even in Accra. And I was just telling you off air that even a particular commentator, a political commentator, took me to the cleaners. When in fact, I was not even in Accra. So I called in and said, as I was speaking with the journalist, I said I was far away at Bolgatanga. I was not even in Accra at the time. So how could I have been in Accra, and how could you have surrounded my car and I ordered police to come and beat you? So I issued that. And then that particular radio station unconditionally apologized to me and retracted.
So they wanted Gov't Dami to address them.
No,
Gov't Dami did address them, but what happened to
I'm getting there. You see, Gov't committed no offense, and Gov't never called police to come and brutalize anyone. Let's get that right. Dami did not call police to come and brutalize anybody. In fact, he acted so professionally. First, when he came, they marooned him. They did not even allow him to alight from his car to have the opportunity to address them. And they were banging his car and chanting songs and all that. He attempted to come out. He could not. So he used another route and came back to them. And then trying to alight to address them, they wouldn't even allow him. That was why he addressed them while in his vehicle.
He actually said somebody advised him to remain in there because it wasn't in
He wanted to come out. He actually wanted to come out.
One of the demonstrators advised him to stay in there, otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he heeded to that advice and decided to address them while seated in there. And they were still banging on the car and chanting songs and all that. And he had all the patience to address them. So he listened to them, and he was of the thinking that they had a petition.
Right.
So he could receive it for and on behalf of the Attorney General.
Right.
There was nothing of the sort. He addressed them, and you heard him. Very professionally, he addressed them. And after he left, the next moment, people started saying that he called the police to come and brutalize them. And they had no evidence whatsoever.
Okay.
Just to cast a slur on his integrity.
Okay.
So that was most unfortunate. I think that the leadership of the demonstrators ought to apologize.
But what is the government as qua the Jubilee House going to do, seeing that a deputy chief of staff, Abu Jinapo, was clear? He was also going to the Jubilee House and he saw what was going on. He stopped and told the police to give them access to the Jubilee House. The police didn't listen to him. So at least he's a witness of what has happened. And the Jubilee House's name is what may have gone in the mud. So what will be done in that direction?
I think that is why I stated that the action of the police was high-handedness. Even if they wanted to use a little bit of force at that particular stage, what was the purpose? Is it that the students were engaged in some destruction or some attacks that they wanted to stop it? I didn't see that on the video, where maybe they engaged in acts that were likely to endanger security at that moment. Then the police will say that they have to apply some minimum force, which has no meaning anyway, and to be able to disperse them. No, so they have not been able to establish that there was a provocation or there was a certain attempt to destabilize or to create insecurity. So their action was justified to the extent that it was meant to kill a certain conduct on the part of the demonstrators.
Let's hear just one statement. Statement. You see, let's just oppose this. Don't forget that at the time, you see the situation Honorable narrated when they banged on this Dami's car. You know he has security, yet he prevailed upon them not to do anything. Okay, yes, and they moved from the AG side and went to Akwaje. So what's different? If Dami could control his security not to cause any violence, why couldn't the regional commander control his men?
Well, they had instructed that they shouldn't do the demonstration in the first place. Now, let's move away from the demonstration and the issues that came out. You have been known to be one of the advocates for what the students are calling for. Are they beating a dead horse? Let's go straight to the solutions. And is it really the case that the General Legal Council is not reforming As we know now, they had tried to get an expansion. They were ready to admit as many as over 1,000, students who would have passed the exam. They didn't conduct the exam. An independent body conducted the exam. They marked them, and they didn't make the marks. Why are we blaming them? We are told this year, 306 were called to the bar. Now, contrary to past events, what we have seen in the past, where those proceeding to the second year to be called to the bar, there have been a pass mark rate of about 12% for a period. Like last year, the pass mark was 12%. This year, the pass mark is 64%. Is it true that they are not reforming?
Well, thank you, Samson. I listened when the Deputy Attorney General was speaking, and I think that we appear to be drawing closer. He said, look, the reforms must be holistic, must be comprehensive. I heard it clearly, and I relaxed in my seat. I mean, it means that government is now listening. And,
hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. and I also heard Kojo Nkrumah say, look, the reforms must be radical, comprehensive. And so it means there's some movement. And it's a general acceptance of the fact that the situation in which we are is unacceptable. Now, again, the issue goes beyond providing space.
It's unacceptable that
1,700 failed.
No.
1,700 failed.
About 1,700
failed. Yes.
Yes. It's not acceptable.
Whose fault is it that they failed?
We don't know.
It's not the students.
We don't know. That's why we need reforms. In any civilized society, when examiners set questions and students fail, what do they produce? They produce an examiner's report so that the students will understand why they failed. Has the General Legal Council...
Even for entrance exams?
Even for entrance exams. There must be an examiner's report. So why haven't they produced an examiner's report? So that we know what the students are not doing right. And
those who were just called to the bar, there was one of them that JoyNews interviewed.
Yes.
He said he should have been called last year, but he wasn't called because he was said to have failed. When he went for remarking, he actually didn't fail.
Yes.
Yet his call to the bar has been delayed by 1 year.
Yeah.
Can you believe this?
I can tell you that the students have told me that some 2 years ago, they had custody of the results. And Samson, some students didn't have results recorded against their names. It was very embarrassing. And so we're not saying that law school, General Legal Council has no jurisdiction to supervise admissions into the law school. All we are saying is that everything that is being done at the law schools must be transparent as to win the trust and confidence of the students.
Okay, in a minute, if you can conclude on this, they are now telling you that you were in Parliament and you were the ones when the new law was being brought upon Professor Kekwasare's judgment he obtained from the Supreme Court, that interviews must be eliminated from the entrance process. There should only be an entrance exam.
Yes.
They are telling you that if you had allowed the interviews this time round, a lot more people would have gone in, because when you get the 50% pass mark and they are inviting you to interviews, they would invite those who had, say, 49, 48, and they will come and they would have gone.
Tony Forson put that to me, and I told him that was quite unfair, because you were in Parliament as well. What were we doing in Parliament? I argued on even retroactivity of the legislation. What were we doing in Parliament? The Supreme Court had ruled that the institution of examinations and interviews was unconstitutional, as it was not supported by any rule. The Ghana Bar Association, Ghana Law School was in the process of admitting students. And we're going to use the same procedure which had been declared unconstitutional. So They needed an ex facto rationalization of an otherwise illegal process. They came to us with an ally, wanting us to give them the authority to conduct exams and also interviews. Ex facto rationalization. Then we said, look, conducting exams and doing interview constitute 2 entry barriers. And there is evidence that some people pass the exam but fail the interview. So why will you put 2 entry barriers before the students? So, well, we want you to go and conduct admissions into the law school. And the Deputy Attorney General, who is a member of the General Legal Council, was there throughout. Go and conduct the exam, because we were now approaching a situation where they could not conduct, they could not have admissions for that year. So go use examinations to get students, but bring comprehensive legislation to deal with the situation. That was the conclusion.
Okay, so you are waiting for a comprehensive legislation. And there is one in the offing, right?
Well, we hope that there's one in the offing.
Okay, thank you.
But let me say, just for the police matter, I will always say that police don't move. It's a service, it's an institution, it's security. They don't move. It is important for all of us to know who authorized the movement of the police to where they...
Okay. Now, Martin, in 2 minutes, and Penka will conclude for us. In 2 minutes, do you think it is fair to accuse the General Legal Council of acting in, in the past and not, being forward-looking, being progressive, and actually being deliberate and restrictive in allowing, those who deserve to go to the law school to go to law school?
Suddenly, the answer is I'm not in a position to come one way or the other because of lack of information. I don't have all the information. You know why? It was just this morning I discovered that, yes, there was a committee chaired by Justice Doche and then one also chaired by Justice Eni Yebua on the matter of arranging for space ahead of time. You see? So I was like, oh, if that is true, then they should have come out very early. They should have had a PR system, because if we had real evidence that they anticipated that there would be a rise in the numbers and they had made preparation, then that shows that, you see, that it would take a lot of force out of the conspiracy theory.
What will that change if the students still failed?
No, so that then we would, then the next point, so where I now want to follow them is on the matter of the undertaking that you
can't challenge.
Yes, that one is a no. That is no law. Look, I think the General Legal Council should just scrap that policy.
That you should write an entrance exam and have the opportunity to challenge the results.
Exactly. So please, I think administratively they should recall that policy, because the students are going to go to court. It will be very embarrassing. The General Legal Council should do well on that. At least, as I said, since I heard the information, and Honorable started, I think 2 weeks ago, we were on a platform, TV3, and when he mentioned it, I thought Honorable was just making up a story. But subsequently, I heard it is true. And I was like, what? So why did you sit? It means that they need a very strong PR system. So I mean, since hearing that information, I've seen that perhaps there's a lot more that I haven't heard. But despite the fact that there may be a lot more that I haven't heard, and so I'm not well informed, the fact remains that as for the undertaking that the results cannot be challenged.
In the immediate term, do you belong to the school that says previous years they have had to lower the pass mark to be able to bring in more? So this time round, they can look at the results again, lower the pass mark and get more in, because after all, they had made provision to take as many as 8,000 or more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know why, Sam? You and I, when we entered law school, did we take an entrance exams? When we were going to Makola?
There were quotas at the time, and your school will determine at your LLB. At your LLB, you would know that you had qualified or you haven't qualified.
Yes.
Because if you didn't have maybe a first class or an upper, or maybe you would know.
It's a good phrase.
Yeah, you would have known that you can't go to law school.
Yes. Oh, Sam, I think that it's a bit difficult.
You can't operate that system now because there are how many law schools?
12.
12 of them.
Yes. Yes, but that notwithstanding, so the point is that, your main point is that since in the past they came down to 40-something. I think in the circumstances of this case, yes. You don't forget that the students have to put in effort to prepare.
All right, sorry, but we have run out of
time. I believe
sorry, immediate measures. Are you thinking of any such as the General Legal Council?
Something very,
in 2 minutes.
Very quickly. First of all, the police brutality that we just discussed, I have been advised just a moment ago that the students blocked the road for a number, 2 hours or so, and then all effort to get them to clear failed. That was what led to that. I've just been advised by a very, very senior
The police
source.
in their press statement says that the demonstration was illegal.
No, this is what I have been advised. I'm not, I just want to clarify. But the substance, you realize that my brother Martin has made very strong points, and he referred to something I said. To be candid with you, the Prof. Doche committee and that of Prof. Niyebua's Justice Niyebua's committee, they were very clear. They reported to the General Legal Council that they had secured accommodation at UPSA. And then
we are familiar with that. Now, going forward, what's going to happen?
I don't know whether you are privy to the fact that we had approved that a prefabricated classroom structure be put up at the law school as an emergency measure for this year's admissions. We had approved that. And procedures were being gone through for them to get a contractor to go to site to within 2 months.
So you were disappointed at the result?
Obviously.
What should happen?
That is why
there's a huge backlog. What should happen?
I want all of us. You see, some people are creating the impression that now it is meant for a certain class or category of people. That cannot be correct. I know even members of the General Legal Council whose children have written and failed this exam 3 times.
Yes.
It only tells you the level of fairness. Nobody can influence anything as far as that is concerned. The mass failures. Back to that. I was telling you off air that I know a young man from Boga who has nobody in position of authority or whatsoever. I mean, from a very humble background. He's among the 128 that passed.
Great.
Okay? And he's currently preparing to get in there. So what I'm seeking to say is that the process is fair. There's something that my very good brother has stated, which I think we have to look at. Putting out the marking scheme, and then perhaps why people didn't meet it and all that. They will put speculations to rest. But it isn't that somebody has just decided that 128 people should pass. Because otherwise, why were we preparing for bigger numbers?
So people say, and that should be your last reaction here, people say that if you have a Chief Justice who chairs the General Legal Council, make a pronouncement publicly in the nature of policy to say that for as long as she has something to do with this issue, what you guys are asking for, forget it.
No, but you see,
it shows that there's some deliberateness.
No, there's no deliberateness at all. You know, I told you that General Legal Council, she is the chairperson. But our decisions are by majority vote. So someone should not think that when Chief Justice comes to our meeting, she says, this is it, and we get up and go home.
All right.
No, we're not conveyor belts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe she shouldn't have made that
statement. I mean, she's continuously reinforcing that
statement. People have actually quoted her verbatim a number of times and said she should not have made it. That statement means that we have the ability to influence the outcome of the examination results or all that. But I'm saying that we do not have the ability to influence it. The Independent Examination Committee conduct their exam independently.
Thank you all very much. And please, for those of you who are saying people with political connections are those who pass, please don't try that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Thank you. We'll be right back to deal with the questioning of the bank collapse and the commencement of criminal prosecutions, the case of Capital Bank. Thank you.